Hello and welcome to Tech Talk, brought to you by Spiceworks. I'm your host, Neha Kulkarni, and I'm here today with another prolific guest. His name is Charlton Monsanto, who serves as Capgemini's Executive Vice President for Digital Customer Experience. He leads the Immersive Experience Global Offer and is the head of the Design and Interactive Practice. On today's special episode, Charlton and I will discuss why organizations need to get bigger on immersive tech and how to navigate the challenges that lay ahead. So, thank you, Charlton, for joining me on Tech Talk. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you for having me here.
So, to set the stage, can you tell us a bit about your journey in the immersive experience technologies and who is really behind the name of Charlton?
So thank you, and good question. So in terms of myself and the journey of getting here, I am a technologist at heart and have been a CIO myself, have advised and driven enterprise architecture type solutions and advisory, and been an architect myself. So at the end of the day, while the topic today is about immersive technologies, immersive interactions, at heart, I'm looking at it from a technologist perspective, but also now having learned that the user experience, the understanding of the context, the understanding of really how to design the right immersive interaction to drive a lot more adoption, conversion, things like that, business outcomes is critical. So when it comes to the journey of having gotten to this name, so one of the things that happened was back in about 2019, we thought of how do we help our company position interactive services, UI development, UX experiences and research, and really go to the market selling that and positioning that with business value rather than just selling capacity, capabilities, outsourcing, right? And so to solve for that, we wanted to really start to think about user interfaces and how the evolution of consumers, users, employees, anyone trying to either interact with something and driving the attention to customize it, driving conversion, right, from a consumer perspective, or driving retention from an employer's perspective, going to training is critical. And so what is it that is going to be new, right? And what we thought about also is, and we validated this with analysts, is mobile first, while it's one of the biggest investments in technology leapfrogs that have happened in the last 2 decades, is no longer necessarily a differentiating type of interaction, right? Mobile first is absolutely expected. We know it needs to be there, but what is next? What is it that takes us to really have that multisensory emotional connection to a product or to a system? And so when we thought about that, we really thought about immersive as a term, and we thought about being more bold about the word immersive and not just to say, hey, it's about a 3D virtual world, which is a lot of what people expect when they hear immersive, but it's really more around how do you combine mobile or web interactions with a spatial natural interaction, right? Haptics, olfactory, sensory, audio visual, right? A space interacting with you, you walking into a lobby, and how does that lobby recognize you? How does that lobby personalize certain things that displays to you, right? Or that store. And then as necessary, as relevant, right? How do we then add extended reality, augmented reality, mixed and virtual reality capabilities to make it relevant, right? So what we didn't want to do is just constrain the thinking that anything immersive had to be 3D virtual, but immersive really meant keeping that person's attention to drive retention, conversion, and a real business outcome.
Great. So, picking up your point about that, you wanted immersive technology to be a bit more bold. Can you walk us through what is the current state of immersive technology industry and what does it truly mean for the average techie now?
Yes, absolutely. And I'll go back to just quickly making sure that in terms of the definition of an immersive experience, really the way we define it is it's not just about putting on a headset, not just going into a virtual environment, but it is really, again, the combination of the relevant combination of two-dimensional flat UI, natural spatial, and 3D, and then somehow combining that based on understanding the user, based on understanding the situation they're in, right? When and how and what they're trying to achieve, and somehow combining it to the right design. So that's our definition for an immersive experience. So for the average techie, I'll say, right? think about immersive again as being more than VR, right? So it really is, at the end of the day, as a techie is trying to design or think about building something, building an app or building a solution, is to really understand what is it that drives that multisensory connectivity, right, to that task. And having to use interactive technologies, which is, there are so many of them out there now, to really, when relevant, right, apply the right interaction, and really what drives in that design the multiple senses that keep our attention, and to drive again engagement, to drive again attention, right? To have someone really feel like they're going to want to and love to either interact with a product that's digital, or really interact with a system that they have to use in their day-to-day work lives, right? From an IT professional leader perspective, a CIO, a CTO type of person, the reality is, and most CIOs and CTOs know this, that this is all coming, right? The timing for it all, right, can be discussed, but this is all coming, and to not put it aside and hope that it's not going to come, but to really start to test, start to validate, right? A lot of companies are under pressure today with budgets, with workforces, et cetera. But really start to think about, how do I test and validate the right use cases, and then start to really invest in some small prototypes, some small proofs of concepts, right, to prove this out, because the business partners are coming, if they haven't come yet, to say, hey, what are we doing with VR, AR? How do we get into this world of Web 3.0 and the metaverse? How do we do things such as immersive luxury shopping and try-ons, things like that, right? It's coming, and it will be here. And so some type of timely prototyping, testing, and validating is very important. In terms of a person wanting to enter the IT profession, right, and thinking about entering, and know that, for example, if they're thinking about development, UI development, front-end development, and it will include in the future some type of 3D, spatial, again, natural type of experience and interactions they have to be able to design and be able to apply, right? So the world of just designing for mobile, just designing for web, it will evolve, and you will have to know, as a person thinking about creating and developing and interacting, how to combine all those three types of interactions. The other thing also I want to be very passionate about in this answer is that UX research, really good understanding again of that persona, the context, the moment. What are they trying to accomplish? What is that business outcome again? Is it converting a person, manipulating a product in 3D, being able to get customization in real time, seeing the cost of that customization in real time, maybe being able to save it for later and come back to it so they can see and manipulate again. The propensity for converting and driving loyalty is higher when we as human beings are interacting. The more we interact with a product, right, and when we're evaluating it and considering the buying, the more the propensity for conversion. So good user design, good user research is absolutely critical. So again, for an average techie, really going in with that design thinking mindset is a critical type of competency that they have to grow.
Absolutely. And, Charlton, talking about the business outcome that comes from an immersive technology investment. So, according to a recent market forecast that we came across from Report Linker, we found that both virtual and physical spaces is projected to grow from almost $43 billion in 2020 to $333 billion in 2025. So, in your view, how much of that growth will be driven by consumer technologies, and how can businesses harness the immersive tech, especially to streamline their operations?
Great question. And so from our recent Capgemini Research Institute assessment and report that we did, half of the consumers we surveyed felt that some type of interactive, immersive experience would be impactful in how they're influenced in their buying journey, right? So from a consumer perspective, and especially as it relates to, I'll call it a high engagement, or as we're going to present at NRF next week, luxury goods, right? Where there is a need for really to interact and again customize and feel, because it's an important buy, it's a costly buy, right? Or it's a complex type of product. Where that is necessary, immersive experiences, 3D type visualization and manipulation of products, right? Being able to see a product and actually place it in your environment and potentially simulate what it would look like, what colors combinations are the right ones, or what dimensions are the right ones. Doing all these things will drive conversion. So the growth in the industry in that context, from a consumer perspective, is has a lot of potential. The adoption will be high the more and more people see the benefit, and companies see the benefit of providing that interactive interface, if you will, to complex products. Okay. When you think about enterprises, companies, or as we call it, the industrial metaverse, there's a lot happening here already, and we have partners. We have partnerships with companies that are and have, for example, created digital twins, entire digital twin versions of an entire airport, for example, or a city. And they're using these applications to essentially do simulation of, for example, construction, right? Reducing waste, reducing carbon footprint, right? By doing these virtual simulations without having to do anything physical, right? And they're using these digital twins to also look at using IoT sensors, look at the temperature in rooms, manipulate that from a security perspective, being able to monitor and dispatch the security, but also, for example, to optimize using simulation capabilities again, optimize, for example, the routing of planes on the tarmac, et cetera, right? So the industrial application of this is here. We have several clients that are now using this to improve their operations, improve the manufacturing processes. So the enterprise application of immersive experiences is here. It's going to grow, and the numbers that you just mentioned, in my opinion, in our opinion, are very much achievable, if you will. It'll happen more so on the industrial side because of, again, the real business outcomes and business benefits, efficiencies, being able to reduce, again, carbon footprint. But also the other one that's also really, from our perspective, that we see that a lot of clients are asking about, and we have some case studies on this, is training, the as we call it, the immersive workforce, right? There's a lot of benefit, and call it the time to market, if you will, of onboarding, bringing on a person, training them, and getting them to be as effective as possible to deploy them to a task, right? Or a product, what have you. We're seeing, and we're working on the proposals for clients right now where that's the application, that's the use case that we see a lot of benefit, is employee enablement and training, the onboarding part, all doing that using AR, VR technologies for that.
Great insight. That's an excellent insight. You also touch based upon the industrial use cases for immersive technologies. So, most businesses, in fact, haven't scaled their immersive initiatives due to, yes, the budget constraints, but also due to a lack of clear roadmap. So, why do you think this hesitation to invest in, immersive technology exists? And which real world use case will kind of change the situation if presented to the businesses?
Yeah, so we've seen a couple of different patterns with this, and some of it is about the financial situation that we are in as well, right? And so the folks that have the ability to invest right now are watching and have that wait and see approach. And our report validates that, right? So a lot of folks they're either in a what we call it the FOMO type of mode, where they have a fear of missing out and they're going to try and innovate and test things out. And then there are those who just want to wait and see and watch what others are doing. What we would say is it is time, though, as I mentioned before, to define that roadmap, is to start to at least bring in the business, the sales, marketing, innovation, creative type of teams that you have in the company, right? Bring them in and start to do some workshops and try to identify and prioritize those relevant use cases. Where does it apply? Where can you combine these technologies to really drive that business benefit? The wait and see approach, what will happen inevitably is people will, from a competitive perspective, start to see that they're missing out, and and others that are nimbler are moving ahead. So we do advise that rapid testing and really trying to drive that culture of test and fail, right? So we have clients where it's very clear that when they have that top-down support, the top-down investment, if you will, to go and drive some of this innovation, that's where you see a lot of use cases being identified that make sense, right? But that also have been validated because they're willing to invest a little bit, fail, but then also keep trying, right? So it does really require a culture of innovation, and those that have that courage and that top-down buy-in is where we're seeing some successes in having put in and invested in the use cases that make sense. And again, just to add to that, the use cases again around training, if you will, around digital twins and somehow using digital twins to drive efficiencies. Those are the two that we see again are for the industry, for corporate and enterprise being the most popular use cases right now.
Great. Also, speaking about the trainings that you've just mentioned, from the IT team perspective, what steps or what trainings can truly prepare them for the integration of immersive technology in the existing apps and the existing legacy systems for the organization?
Yeah, so I mentioned this before, and hopefully you'll the repeating of it is because of the passion for it.
Yeah.
IT teams do need to combine and have user experience design and research capabilities in those teams. That's a very critical part, right? But then in addition to that, having understood the situation, understood the context, et cetera, right? What they're solving for, what is that problem definition, really understanding that. The ability to do 3D design, the ability to understand Web 3.0 types of technologies that are coming, that are here, right? Web 3.0 and NFTs, all the different types of technologies that are being tested right now, right? Cryptocurrencies, blockchain, all of these are pivotal key types of competencies that I would say an IT team needs to start to really get some training and certifications in. So again, the Web 3.0 critical components, cryptocurrency, blockchain, what I would say also is 3D design, right? 3D modeling, 3D rendering, and all of the engines behind that, right? Knowing how to do that is critical. And the reason I mentioned that is also because as IT teams are designing and building these types of new applications, designing for a 3D environment is extremely different, very different than for a regular two-dimensional laptop, web top, mobile type of interaction. In fact, the reason for that is that I'm mentioning that is because also in some of our projects and our tests, we've seen that some people, when they interact with 3D worlds, it actually has a negative experience for them because they feel uncomfortable. Some of them, it doesn't matter. But in the design, right, in the rendering, in the way they create these types of environments, it's going to be critical to test for that type of experience, right? Because what you don't want to do is create that experience at first, because that then has people become even more hesitant to use these newer technologies.
Great. I think your passion about this topic is really showing, but it's time for us to kind of definitely say a quick goodbye. But before we leave, can you tell us how immersive tech is going to shape the enterprise's future and what trends are really going to matter in the coming years?
So we really do believe, and again, you mentioned the word passionate. We're very serious about for our own company and how we train our customers, but also how we help our clients to create new ways of interacting and engaging and driving experiences that drive more loyalty, for example. We do believe that immersive will be a key and central part of that. And that is actually driving some of our company strategy, our services strategy going forward, 2023, 2024. So again, a little bit repetitive here, but IT departments understanding how AR, VR technologies and which platforms to actually go and test with, right? So understanding also, because there's so many new startups and so many different types of tools out there, being able to apply that enterprise architecture thinking about what's right and what's compatible with their environment is going to be critical. So the CTO, enterprise architects, now more than ever, they're very critical and pivotal in determining how an enterprise is investing, how they're standardizing, but also integrating some of these technologies, right? AR, VR, and how it's applied, and immersive technologies combined with personalization technologies and IoT, they're here, right? So they're going to be very transformative for IT departments, especially when it comes to the workforce again and training people and getting them ready. A large proportion of consumers are curious about the metaverse, right? There's a lot of hype about the word. There's also some fatigue, right, about the word. But the hype is driving companies to have to somehow figure out what their role is there. And there's a lot of work to still make that happen, right? So interoperability between metaverses, right, and is going to be critical. The actual aspiration of a metaverse and people being able to go from brand to brand, service to service, company to company, using their own single identity instead of having to log in, log out, etc. All of that has to still be figured out. But what we really seriously believe is that if companies are doing the testing and validation right now, they're thinking about the privacy and safety concerns that are happening right now, that people are paying attention to that and trying to solve for that, that's going to be a necessary thing for companies in the 5 to 10 year type outlook to be competitive. What we see in some of our consumer type of consumer products companies and retail companies is that they're using tests and prototypes in retail to really create a buzz for the brand, right? So the ROI and the value to them is really that brand, that product is at the end of the day really forward looking. And they're actually benefiting from that because people are seeing the branding in a different type of channel, a channel that's new. Certain types of segments in their clients are really looking at that as a way to say, okay, I want to identify with a forward looking, cool type of brand. So we have some clients that have done that and have been successful at creating a buzz and have actually measured that.
Great. And on that very kind of, exciting note, thank you so much, Charlton, for sharing how immersive tech offers companies opportunities, especially to stay competitive in the market and to enhance their customer experience, employee engagement. Thank you so much for taking out your time for us.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having me.
Great. And to our audience, thank you everyone for joining me and Charlton on Spiceworks Tech Talk. Please take a moment to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is called Spiceworks News and Insights, for watching these engaging conversations. Till then, stay safe, stay well, and I will see you all on our next Tech Talk episode. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, Neha. Bye-bye.